people online. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Devin McNally. I'm an associate planner with the County of Placer with our Community Development Resource Agency. We are here today to kind of talk to you about building accessory homes in the county and kind of ways that you can finance them, how you can build them, and then on the county side, how you can go about getting a permit. So I'm joined by 4 fantastic guest speakers. One is Laura Levine from Umpqua Bank. We have Chris D'Angelo from D'Angelo Construction. And then from the county, we have Megan Schwartz, our ADU specialist, and Patrick Hoffman, who is our front counter kind of specialist when it comes to all things ADUs. So we'll be going and hearing from them all today. So let's get started. We're going to start with Laura Levine from Umpqua Bank. So Laura, if you want to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you, Devin. Good morning. Good morning. I was very happy to be asked to speak this morning. My journey began with an accessory dwelling unit over 20 years ago when I bought a home with existing space. And it was a wonderful way for me to have an ADU for extra room and to have someone in the local workforce be able to move into that ADU, and that really helped me make my mortgage payment. So I've always been personally excited and have spent the last couple of decades working in financing, construction financing, renovation financing, with a big passion for accessory dwelling units. So I'm going to work on keeping this high level, and I'm available for questions afterwards. And I know that Devin has done an amazing job of putting together some exhibits I've provided for some extra information tools. So there we go. What I want to talk about is some people look at this, launching into this, how do we build an ADU? And one of the first things they run into is, where are we going to get the money and how can we do that? And what mechanisms are available? So the next call we get can often be, I need a construction loan, and that can feel like a mountain of an effort when there's not a lot of information necessarily available. So what I want to talk to you about, though, is that there are a number of options. So one of the first ways, for many people that are here, you may own a home or you may be looking at buying a home. I'm guessing a lot of people on this call already own their home. So one, especially in this market of appreciation, many of you have quite a bit of equity already, and you may not need to get a construction loan. You can use a conventional cash out loan. And that's where you would refinance any debt on your home now. You would increase that amount for an amount that you would look at being what you would need for that, that construction of your accessory dwelling unit. Well, we're in this period where interest rates have been so low, and you may have an interest rate that begins with a 2% or a 3%. And right now in this market, rates are higher. So leaving your existing loan in place and getting what's called a home equity line of credit on your home. It's a line of credit, and most equity lines are designed, they're at an adjustable rate, and there's options to fix in the amount that you pull off of your credit line. This would allow you to keep your existing loan in place. Placer County has seen a lot of appreciation recently, so taking a line of credit, leaving your first in place can be a way that you can borrow money. You only pay interest on the money that you borrow. And once you've borrowed, say, the amount you need for the full construction, you would have the option to lock that in. The next on the slide is a construction loan. One of the best features of a construction loan, first of all, it's specifically designed for what you're doing, is that it will use future value. So if you've recently purchased a home and adding this accessory dwelling unit is going to add value, we use an appraisal that looks at its future value, and your loan to value would be based on that future value. So if you were saying to yourself, well, I'd love to build an ADU on my house, but I can't get a bank that will give me, loan me more money at its current value, a construction loan can do that. We have another slide that we can go over the construction loan process. It's a little different than just a normal loan. So let's take a moment and do that after I go through this list. So these are the first three options most people look at, are traditional ways to borrow to build a home using that existing property. Well, one of the things I love to do is talk to people about using a couple other mechanisms. And one is most people have been saving in their retirement plans. And many 401k, in fact, most have a provision that will allow you to borrow money. So I recommend, if you're looking at borrowing money to build an ADU, is to call your HR department and find out how much you can borrow. Now, 401k plans can differ how much you can borrow, what the limits are, and what the costs are. One of the best features I like, I've used this mechanism myself, and so have many of my clients, is that you are paying yourself back interest. Usually the fees associated with the 401k loan are small administrative fees, say $25 for sending the wire and $25 per quarter to manage the loan. So the fees are usually very small. And again, check with your HR, because retirement plans can differ from company to company in how they're administered. So the next one is one that I usually, when I talk to someone about this option, they've never considered it. Is if you have investments that are not in retirement funds. Now, this only works for stocks and bonds and funds that are not in a retirement account. But if you happen to have been buying some stock, it's sitting there, what you don't want to do is cash out those investments, is you can get what's called a marketable securities loan that's secured by those investments. It typically has very low fees associated with it. The interest rate is much lower than typical investments are earning. Now, right now, though, this can seem really scary because the market has been very volatile. It's one of the reasons, though, a marketable securities loan, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Trying to say that, is a better option than, say, a margin loan, is they don't have an automatic stop sale. Now, I've just ventured into babbling about finance, but it's something we can always go over one by one. It's not a loan secured by the house, but it would be some stocks that you may not want to sell, you may not want to pay capital gains. So this is a wonderful vehicle. And then when we were talking earlier, and I was talking to Megan at Placer County, who's the ADU specialist, she wanted me to definitely mention that using a combination is an excellent idea. So you may have a 401k that will let you borrow $50,000, but that's the cap. And you certainly may need more for this build. You could borrow $50,000 from your 401k, pay yourself back over time in reasonable, manageable payments, and have an equity line of credit that's available to you. Both of these vehicles have very low fees and are available and accessible for most people at our bank, Umpqua Bank, but also at most banks. So I'm happy to help review those options with anybody one-on-one. So let's now dive into the construction loan. This is where people go, I want to do some cool construction. I want to build this ADU. We find out how much it costs and people just stop right there. So a construction loan is a very specific loan type that is developed to help you build and complete your build process, and the bank works with you the entire step of the way. Most of you have probably gone through the loan process to buy your home, and that part of the process is the same as if you were doing any kind of real estate loan. There's two other pieces to a construction loan. So you start off by meeting with a loan officer, either at Umpqua, at another bank that provides a construction loan. And we're going to ask you for a lot of documents. And this is the part where a loan person like myself or another, we're going to focus on talking to you about the project documents and getting to know your builder so we can help you get those documents together. And we're going to provide you a checklist so that you know what to expect. Once we get the bulk of those documents, we're going to set you up in the system so that you have your loan. This is not a locked loan. This is the initial loan package before the project's approved, but we're going to send you a full set of loan disclosures that shows you what the estimated costs are for your loan, for your estimated project size, so we can move this forward. So this process usually starts early on. When you're just talking about doing an accessory dwelling unit, we're not going to do a loan process when you've gotten approved with the county. You're going to start with the lender well before that point. So this is a process that can take anywhere from a couple of months for you, because what we're doing is we're supporting your process and we'll be with you along the way. And then once your builder and the county and you have worked together, we're going to get those documents in and we're going to submit those to the underwriter so they can approve the project. You're going to be working, and Placer County's got this great supportive program for ADUs. So you're going to have a project that when we take a look at it is probably ready to go for our basic underwriting approval. So that's an approval piece that's in addition to a normal financing approval for a typical loan. Once that's reviewed, that's when we get to order that appraisal for future value. That typically takes a few weeks. Once that happens, this gets set up for things like the insurance you'll need, and you and your builder, we have Chris that's will review some of the construction topics. Your builder will set up how you guys want money dispersed in a construction loan. Once you get through that price, we confirm all the terms and we're getting ready to sign loan documents so we can be ready. Now, depending on your process, how long you and your contractor take, you guys can be ready in a couple of months, or you may be planning this for a period of time so it's the right project for you. We'll be there with you, whether it's a month or a year. The process has a varied period of time of how long you're going to move at your pace. And once that's through, we get our loan construction documents signed. And then, of course, you guys want the money to build, right? So the money is dispersed as the project moves through the process, and there's progress payments as the project's being completed. I've actually had a client actually call me. They had tons of equity. They could have used an equity line of credit, which is a wonderful vehicle. And they said, Laura, I actually want you to do a construction loan so that your construction loan process can help us put the structure in place for the entirety of the construction. And they added a 1,200 square foot ADU unit, and it was a huge success. So I wanted to give this sort of non-mystifying picture of a construction loan process, and we can review that again individually. And I'm also have sent Devin a full PowerPoint of the construction loan process. Okay, I think that covers sort of the high points of lending, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak and share some information. Any questions from the panel?
How's your experience been with the ADU process?
So my fiance and I are in the process of doing a new build in North Star, and we are including in this accessory dwelling unit. And I moved from the Bay Area in 2017, so I'm relatively new to Placer County, and it was a good experience, definitely a great experience to get to know, and also how excited I am of how supportive Placer County has been in really good information. I got introduced to Megan, who was really good at very simply explaining to me what the rules are, the great news about how there's some impact fees that are reduced because we were including an accessory dwelling unit in our project, and it's been moving along. So we're not approved yet. We just got submitted last week, but I'm really thrilled at how the information has been really accessible and how the whole Placer team has been really supportive for our accessory dwelling to get built. So thank you so much.
Any other questions? And I'll also say you guys will have some time also at the end as well. So if you think of a question, don't worry, we'll give you a lot of chances. So one question, is the bank okay with a construction loan as a second deed of trust?
That is an excellent question. Our construction loan program is a first loan program. So it's also a reason why I emphasize, let's look at all loan options available to you, is what's the best for you. If you have a first loan that's at 3%, let's look at some other equity options before we have to refinance that loan with a construction loan. So most of the construction loans, I can't speak for other banks, but the ones that I know of, other big conventional banks, the construction loan program is a first trust deed. It's in first position, and we would pay off any existing debt. And rates change daily. The last loan, and it's a great question, the last loan that I locked was 4.5% for a loan that was amortized over 30 years. And the locked period was 10 years. And after that, it would become an adjustable. So it was a 4.5% loan locked for 10 years, amortized over 30 years. So it's a really good accessible rate. It's lower than many I've heard of. As we know, rates are moving up, and why I'm pretty passionate about looking at all options. So if you've got a really low interest rate, we're not undoing that.
Another question from Jason. What is the down payment percentage for construction loans? Is it 20%?
That totally depends on the loan size. So it can be anywhere from, using a lower loan to value program of 10% down to very large loans. And to give some capacity to that, if you have a loan amount that's $700,000 or less, we're looking in the 10% range. When you go over $1 million, you're looking at 20%, 25%. We have construction loan programs up to 3 million, and in fact, even over, and those now you're looking into the 40 or 50% down. So it really depends on what the loan size is.
Gotcha. I think those are all the questions for now. Tony asks, are there any state grants or other financial incentives?
That is an excellent question. So right now, in fact, Umpqua Bank is working with CalHFA, California Housing Finance Authority, to be able to offer their $25,000 pre-development grant program for ADUs, so that early planning costs this grant can help offset those costs.
Can I chime in real quick, Laura?
Please.
So hi everyone, I'm Megan. Thanks for being here. So that $25,000 grant that you're talking about has gone up to $40,000.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
Wow.
what I tell people to do, being that I do know very little about the financial side and appreciate everything Laura says because she knows her stuff, but Google CalHFA ADU. And it'll take you right to that grant program. I'm not sure what the income levels are for it to be qualified, but I know that the grant program went from 25 to 40 because not enough people were using it and they had excess money. So check it out.
That's great.
I've put the link to the program in the chat, so feel free to go there. I see that Joe, you have a question regarding Placer County's rules. We'll get to that. So I'll hold off on that one. So I think that's a perfect segue. One more question. I am presently building an ADU on my daughter's property. Would I be able to apply for a grant and a loan for this build, or will my daughter, the homeowner, have to apply?
I'd love to answer the finance side.
Go for it.
Dad, that's great. A really typical mechanism for buying or building. I'm doing one of these right now for one of my borrowers. We're doing an equity line on mom and dad's property, and the kids are building next door. So there's nothing wrong with looking at leveraging your property. If you're in the middle of construction, Most lenders won't lend during the course of construction. Important, you want to set up your financing before you start building. And you can look at using your property as leverage. Also, let's say you hadn't started building. If your daughter owns a home and she's got good income, but she actually needs a little bit more help, a parent can co-sign for a loan.
All right, we're going to take one more question from Sam, and then we're going to move on, but we will try to have more options. Sam, I'll let you talk, so feel free.
Sorry, I guess it was a mistake. I don't have any question. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. All right. So we're going to move on. Our next speaker is Chris D'Angelo of D'Angelo Construction, and he's going to walk us through kind of what you need on the construction end, how to work with a contractor, those sorts of questions to start to answer. So Chris, take it away.
Hi, my name's Chris, as you said, with D'Angelo Construction. We're a local builder. I've been in the business for a little over 25 years and started out with manufactured homes, which is, they manufacture a lot of the park models that fit into this, the ADU parameters. One of the first things I want to cover is to have realistic expectations on cost. There's a lot of people out there that give you a very small bid on like a park model or a tiny home. You can get the unit for fairly cheap per square foot, but in the end, after everything's said and done, you're going to be at least $300 a square foot. There's a lot of things in addition to just the unit itself. The site improvements that you have are costly and they add up, and it's good to have those planned for ahead of time and with your budget. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about this, and it's something that Placer County has made very customizable. We used to have to work with very tight parameters, and most people were pretty much kicked out of the availability of doing something like this. But with the housing shortage and a lot of the new regulations, we're able to do a lot more interesting adventures. So one thing, park models is a common thing that people will see and get a commercial for, or some type of media that sparks the idea. And generally they're very economical. They're very economically priced. And a lot of people think, oh, I can do that. That's no problem. It fits into my budget. I can get the financing for that. They start getting into the process and they realize, well, I've still got to need to add septic or attach to the sewer. All that adds into it. You're required to do a foundation. There's all these things that add to it. So you want to have a holistic view of what you're going to do. Another thing that's very popular these days is the tiny homes. You want to be cautious with that. They're great and I love them. They're really cool. The manufactured homes they're pre-designed, they're approved by the state, and they are inspected at the factory through the process. And so when you get it to your site, you have a limited scope of what the inspectors are actually looking at, because the state's already looked at all the construction of the home itself. With tiny homes, that's something that is, relatively new on the scene. For the most part, they weren't allowed for a long time, and now they are in some places under certain conditions. But some of those tiny homes are being built by DIY type people who may or not build to the code. So just because someone advertised a tiny home, don't go buy it and say, hey, we can use this. Talk to your financing first, talk to your county first, give Megan a call, because if it was a DIY or someone new out in the process, and it may be a really cool, awesome tiny home, but you won't be able to put it anywhere because it doesn't meet code. So that's something to be very careful on. Then, there's the conventional construction, where you hire someone like me and we come out and start to finish, we build what you need. I kind of break those down into 3 different varieties. One is conversion. You have the square footage, whether it's a garage or you have this huge family room, you have the extra bedroom out back that's 1,000 square feet for some reason. You want to convert it into a separate living space. Typically those are done for more family member where you have a more intimate relationship, but those are probably going to be your most cost effective because the structure's already there. You're just changing the specification for it and adding some features. The next is an addition or an attached building. So you're adding square footage. Generally, that has a lot of the same costs and complexity as a detached new construction. You have one adjoining wall. That's great. You'll save a little money on that, but everything else is there. All of your utility issues are there. All of the costs are there. It's a more convenient way to build, but it is still just as complicated as a separate unit. And then if you were to build a completely separate ADU detached from your home, to me, that's more of the standard. That's what a lot of people are looking for. It gives, whether it's a parent or, a child that wants to have an independent life, their own little place, but they're on your property. That's your best bet. We can get to the next slide.
Yeah, and I really quickly want to touch on tiny homes. So right now, we only allow them when they are attached to the foundation. So we don't allow any sort of tiny home on wheels. The county is looking at some updates that would be related to that, but they have not been adopted yet. So
yeah, and a lot of tiny homes, when people build them, that a lot of customers don't realize it doesn't really have the utilities there. It's not like a travel trailer where it has a storage tank and it has a generator and all these things and it's self-sufficient. And I just park it out back and we're good to go. They generally just have a pipe coming down for the sewer that has to be attached to something. That attachment has to be to code. It has to have, the homeowner's septic has to be able to manage that. Your power grid has to be able, everything's still there. So the tiny homes a lot of times can be misleading. I don't want to say anything negative about them. I love them. I think they're really cool. But a lot of people jump into those thinking it's like a travel trailer, and it's not. It doesn't have the necessary utilities that a travel trailer would have. Once you've got to the point where you know what you need, what you want, you have a plan, you've contacted some contractors, and I do recommend contacting some. And if someone calls me, I'm going to recommend they call someone else, because you want to make sure you're having a right fit. I'm very confident in my building skills and the jobs that I do, but I'm not a perfect fit for every customer. So you'll meet with your contractor, you have a site visit, walk around the property, and evaluate your plan. Look at what you're wanting to do. I've been to some customers' houses where they had an idea of what they wanted to do and absolutely was not possible. There was no workaround. There was no modifying it. It was just not there. Somebody wanted to put a 1,000 square foot in their front yard in a neighborhood, and it just wasn't going to fit for the neighborhood. Something that's good to know prior to the contractor coming out there is where all your utilities are, and what type you have. If you don't know that, we can do that when we get out there, but we're just going to spend a good portion of our time on that site visit locating things instead of actually talking about your plan. So if you know or can relatively easily find out what you have, Some of the key things is, whether you're on a sewer or whether you're on a septic. There's a large cost factor there. Sewer is generally, there's a pretty high fee to hook up another unit or an extra bedroom or there's an extra cost for that tie-in. If it's septic, they're designed generally to fit what you already have. So you're going to have to add to that. And two different processes, two different pricing. Your electrical power panel, you have to have enough to supply what you're actually going to add to. And, we can upgrade that, but that's an extra cost. That's more things that need to be done that you need to be aware of. One of the things also is, Placer County has really great plans for ADUs that are pre-made. They already like them. They meet all the criteria, and it kind of expedites the process. But those are for the building itself. You still have to have a site map. Sometimes that requires a survey. It definitely requires someone walking the property, making measurements, getting your setbacks, all of those things, and making a map of just your site specifically for your addition or your ADU that you're putting on there. And you need to, talk with the contractor. Some contractors can handle that themselves, and some of them will require you to hire an architect or an engineer to draft those for you. So that's something good to know up front, because again, everything has an extra cost, and that's something that will, if you're talking with your contractor, are they including that in their bid? Is that something that's going to be a change order? And when you're dealing with your contractor, some contractors, me being one of them, will give you a bid that's generally a little higher than everyone else, but it includes everything. It's been thought out, and I've added things like the site map and surveying and different things that would come up. Other contractors will give you the cheapest price possible. Let's get this done. And then they'll give you a change order all along the way. By the time you're done, you're paying 50% more, 25% more. You're way out of budget, and it creates problems in the end on completing your project. So you want to be clear that everything is inclusive, that is feasibly possible to know ahead of time. If we go to dig your footings and come up that you're just sitting on a granite slab, obviously that's going to change things. But you want to have an all-inclusive bid so that you can, you're comparing apples to apples. And to get that good bid that fits and it's all inclusive, you need to have clear expectations of what you want and make that clear to your contractor. It's good to have an ongoing process. So if you could talk to me first and then you go talk to Laura, well, you're not going to have a full picture. If you go talk to Laura first and you talk to me, we're not going to have a complete picture. It's good to have it kind of working together in the process. Have your lender and your contractor and yourself on the same page, possible Zoom meeting or meetings together, talking about things, because I may give you a great plan. This is fantastic. It's awesome. It's in your budget, you think, and we're ready to go. And you go to your financier and they're like, yeah, you're just like 5,000 off and we can't even get it done. Well, I can change it 5,000 by modifying a couple things that we do to make it within that budget. So it's working together and actually getting Megan involved with what they're going to allow and what things they have. These grants and all these special programs they have makes a lot more things possible. And as those things become available, I may not know about them right away. If we have Megan on board, she's going to say, hey, if you guys are 5,000 short, 10,000 short, I know of this grant they just have, here's the link, and we're good. So make it a team effort, get everyone involved, and you'll have the best outcome. And communicate. If you think something, don't hesitate to talk to your people and make it clear what you want. If you're doing this to have your aging mother have the best comfortable life and the end of her life, that's one thing. If you're building this to make some extra money have a passive income, that's a completely different story. Because I'm gonna build something for your mother to have comfort, I'm gonna add ADA compliant bathrooms and things where someone who is wheelchair bound will ease of access. If you're doing this for, passive income, I'm gonna build you the cheapest thing I can that will last, quality build that will last, but it's just a rental. You're not necessarily worried about getting that perfect tile. I can get a deal on this type of tile and I can save you quite a bit of money. Well, that's great if it's for passive income. It's a terrible idea if it's where you're going to go live and you're going to rent out your main home. So be clear with your expectations and get everybody on board. And that's generally what I have right now. Is there any questions?
So we might jump into really quick because I want to manage our time, the county side of things, because
Okay.
I see some of these questions I think we'll be able to answer through them. So
Great.
we have two people from the county on, Megan Schwartz, who's the ADU specialist, and Patrick Hoffman, who is kind of the front counter guru, and they'll be talking to you about kind of the permitting process and some of the regulations that we have and ways that the county can help you with getting your accessory home built. So Megan and Patrick.
Thanks, Devin. I just wanted to, before we got too far away from what Chris was saying, thank you, Chris. You did an excellent job. I really like how you emphasized on building your team, having your lender and your contractor and possibly an architect, the county, just making sure everybody's on the same page. You're going to get the most out of your project if everyone knows what's going on and can work together. All right, Devin, so if you want to move to the next slide. So as I'm hoping most of you know, ADUs are allowed on every residential zoned parcel in Placer County, in the state of California for that matter. So basically, January 2020, the state passed a whole bunch of laws that encourage the development of ADUs. So right now you are allowed to have up to 3 dwellings per residential zoned parcel. You can have your primary dwelling with an unlimited square footage. You can have an ADU that's up to 1,200 square feet detached, or 50% of the primary square footage attached. So that gets kind of confusing, but we'll go into it more later. You can also have a JADU, so that's the third dwelling, and it can be up to 500 square feet and built within the framework of either the ADU or the JADU. So the first thing that I recommend to people, and I think Patrick and I are on the same page with this, is to do your homework. You want to do permit research. A lot of people come to me and they say, I have this old barn and I want to convert it into an ADU. Well, the first thing we're going to ask you to do is to submit a records request so that we can see if that barn was permitted and what it was permitted as. Was it permitted as an ag structure, or was it, what kind of foundation, all this stuff? How hard is it going to be for you to turn that barn into a residential dwelling that meets California residential building code? So then I think one of the most important things to find out is if you're on septic or public sewer. And if you're on septic, I'm always going to recommend that you reach out to environmental health first, because they will be able to tell you what needs to be done to add a second residential dwelling to your septic system. Do you need to add a second system? Can you modify your existing system? What you need to do. So that goes with the well also. Are you on public water or are you on a well? And environmental health will be able to tell you if your well is adequate to handle a second dwelling and what you need to do to the well to add a second residential dwelling. If you're on public water and public sewer, I always get excited because it's a little bit of an easier process. As long as your parcel is not splittable, which I can help you determine that. Then you do not need to buy a second connection to sewer and water. You can more than likely tie into your existing connection. And there is environmental health email. And if you would like to do a permit research, there's the website to do that research. I always recommend those two things first. All right.
I would agree.
Okay. Feel free to chime in, Patrick, if
Of
you want to
course.
cut me off.
Yep.
All right. So at any point when you are just starting to think about building an ADU, you're like, this sounds cool. I want to build one. I tell everyone, just email me and let's set up a one-on-one meeting. And that's super easy. You can also, where Patrick comes in is you can also just walk into the front counter and walk the line, talk with planning, talk with environmental health, talk with building engineering. You'll be able to talk to everybody at once if you walk into the front counter. I've kind of learned enough about everybody's job to just be a little dangerous. So you call me, we set up a meeting, and I can kind of go over what all the different departments do and get you set up on the right track. I am able to look at your property virtually and discuss setbacks, talk about where you want the ADU to go. I can help you figure out any restrictions, like is there a pond on your property? What's the setbacks going to be? I am definitely capable of walking you through the fees, ADU fees. So something really cool that's happened is when you build an ADU that's under 750 square feet, all impact fees are waived. So that's about a $20,000 value, which is huge. If you build over 750 square feet, there's still going to be a reduction in those impact fees. That's going to be proportional to the size of the primary dwelling. So that's something to talk to me about. We can discuss what those fees are going to be. I will definitely get you on the right track as far as next steps going through the Placer County permitting process. So more than likely, the best way to go is to start with me. And then once you get ready to apply for your permit, that's when you will meet with Patrick, unless you decide to just walk into the counter and get some answers. So the county is very supportive of building ADUs. So we have a really cool website, the Accessory Homes website. And on that website, you will find the pre-approved plans that the county is offering to the public for free. So we have 13 different sets of plans ranging from, I think it's 499 square feet up to 750 square feet that are free. So if you send me an email, once you pick a set of plans you might want to build, I will send you that set of plans, the full set of plans, so that you can start getting bids from multiple contractors. Like Chris said, always talk to a couple, along with all the tools you need to get through the building permit process. We also have a cost calculator, which is, as costs change, it's not always super accurate. We're trying to get it super accurate, but that cost calculator can help you figure out building costs, return on investment costs. It's pretty cool. Go play with it. So
Hey,
I already
Megan,
talked.
can I interrupt you real quick?
Definitely.
So I would just like to clarify on the pre-approved plans. There are additional documents that you will need to provide specific to your parcel,
Mhm.
including a site plan, Title 24, which is your energy calculations, and a foundation plan. Did I miss anything?
No, so that's really good to know that the plans that we have right now do not come with the things that Patrick listed. So the Title 24, the foundation plan, and a site plan. Those are things that you will need to do, which I will send you information on how to get through that process prior to getting your building permit. We are working on getting additional pre-approved plans. We've teamed up with a few different jurisdictions, and those plans will include everything except for your site plan. So they're going to include the Title 24, they're going to include the foundation, and those plans are going to go up to 1,200 square feet. So stay tuned. If you want to get on my email distribution list, send me an email and I'll add you to my list, and I will let you know when those plans are in and when other cool ADU things happen. So, oh, another thing the county offers is me and my ADU team. So I feel like all of Placer County, and definitely the front counter staff and planning and building, we're all very supportive of ADUs, and we want to help you build one if that's something you're interested in. Next slide, please. Oh, so here's our contact information. Everybody write it down if they want to talk to myself, Chris, or Laura. And we could probably go to questions, Devin.
Yeah.
Can we put that in the chat, Devin?
The
The
what?
email addresses?
Yes, I can put those in there. So I'm going to start off with some questions. So we'll say related to ADUs, ADU fees. So is it realistic to find a small plot of land and build a 500 square foot ADU as the primary residence instead of buying an existing primary house?
Yes. Would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
Okay. So it is very common to have people buy vacant land, unimproved land, and build a 500 square foot ADU or a 700, build the ADU first. And then maybe you save up money or whatever you want to do in the future, you want to build a larger primary dwelling. So how that works.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, am I being too talky?
No, I just wanted to make sure you threw the caveat in.
I'm coming.
Okay.
So the 500 square foot dwelling will be considered the primary dwelling until you build that primary dwelling. So you can't have an ADU if it's the only dwelling on the property. So it will be the primary. You will pay full fees, impact fees on that dwelling. But then later on in the future, when you go to build that larger primary dwelling, that's when you'll see the fee reduction. So that at that point, the 500 square foot ADU that you built and you paid full fees on, those fees will be taken out of the fees you pay for the primary dwelling. Sorry, I should have let you answer that, Patrick.
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
Next question. Are there plans to add any pre-approved plans around 1,000 square feet or more?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
so we are working on it. If you want to be on my list, send me an email and I'll add you to my list.
We're hoping by end of summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, the last update I got was middle to end of summer.
Perfect.
There is a question about property setbacks from property lines. I would recommend always just reach out to the county if you have a specific question, because it depends on your property, what your zoning is, that sort of thing. What are the average costs to tie into a second structure? Oh, to tie into sewer. So this is a question probably for Chris.
It really depends on where you're at and what sewer district you're dealing with. I haven't had to tie into sewer in Placer County yet, so I couldn't give you an exact cost. I know the last time I tied into sewer in Sacramento, it was $2,000 just for the tie-in. That wasn't the cost to do it. That was the fee to tie in.
You can figure somewhere about $10,000 to connect to sewer.
Yeah.
And Patrick, does that include the construction or is that the fees?
That is just the permit fees.
There we go. Setbacks from septic for both seasonal creeks and ponds.
That's a lot specific question, and it
Gotcha.
won't be answered by environmental health.
let's see. What is the typical time frame that you can have from building an ADU from beginning to end?
So, Chris,
It really depends.
Oh, go ahead.
It depends. There's a lot of specifics. You're not going to get anything built and complete within 6 months. Generally, you can get done within a year. If everything goes perfect and you're ready and it's a pretty straightforward job, you can do 6 months and turnkey.
Libby has a question, tips for owner builders. I'm not sure, Libby, could you kind of expand on that? Like, are you planning to build it yourself? Or are you saying like you would just like to add something on? So if you can do that. Shirali has a question regarding lot specific. Shirali, I would recommend reaching out to Megan and seeing if she can answer your question specifically, because it sounds like it's directly related to a very specific issue. Oh, Renee, can the ADU be on a well if the primary residence is on public water?
To be signed off by environmental health. If there's public water available, you know, that really is a lot specific question. I suggest reaching out to environmental health and asking them. They're the ones that are going to need to sign off on it. Maybe Devin, go back to that screen that has environmental health's contact information. Business at Placer.
Elizabeth, are the free plans changeable?
Any modifications made to the pre-approved plans makes them no longer pre-approved. But yes, you can modify them. You would need to have an architect or engineer make those modifications. Unless it's small. If it's just like you're changing a shower for a tub, stuff like that, then we can work together. So reach out to me.
How does building an ADU affect Prop 13 property tax limitations?
So I've been told I'm not allowed to answer that question. So you have to reach out to the assessor's office and ask them what it's going to do, what kind of reassessment would happen. I'm hearing it's not a big deal. It's not a lot more on your property taxes, but I would reach out to the assessor's office.
All right. This is a question. Is there an ADU kind of counterpart at the city of Auburn? Megan, do you know this?
Yeah. So the city of Auburn, actually, they have the same plans that we have, and we've worked really closely with them. So I would reach out to John May. He's the building official there. And he is all about building ADUs.
Gotcha. Impact fees. What are they? And how are they kind of applied?
So impact fees are the one-time fee that you pay when you bring a new residential dwelling to the community. It is fires, schools, roads, animal services. There's a bunch more, but
Parks and facility
parks,
services.
facilities, there you go. So it's a one-time fee you pay at construction, and it is for a 1,200 square foot dwelling. It's about $20,000.
Gotcha. Question regarding financing. Are there particular financing options that are recommended? And then can you elaborate on some of the grants that are out there now, because buying is expensive or borrowing is expensive?
On financing, there are quite a few options. Feel free to give me a call and I will review those one-on-one, depending on what the scope is. If you have an existing home and you're modifying and you need a measure of $10,000, that might be a small loan from a home equity line of credit, which has no initial closing costs or borrowing from your 401k, to a large build where you're looking for $250,000 or $300,000. There might be some, we might use a construction loan or a combination. So feel free to give me a call. There's plenty of options in grants. Cal HFA has a great pre-development grant. And Megan, just let us know. Right now, that's up to $40,000.
Fantastic. Can you talk about the solar requirement for detached ADUs? Anyone able to answer this?
It is required. Solar is required. Patrick, do you want to talk about
Solar is required. It's all going to be based on your Title 24, so your energy calculations. So it's specific to your building.
Fantastic. Setbacks. So process of getting a property line staked.
Surveyor.
Yes.
Yeah. So that you would reach out to the county surveyor. They would be the ones doing that.
I think you have to hire a private surveyor.
Yeah.
You hire your own.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of them around. I would recommend a local surveyor because they're familiar with, they may have been on your property already before you purchased it.
Right, fantastic. How large of a garage can you have with an ADU?
Okay, so that just depends on your lot size. If your lot is over, I think it's 4.6 acres, there is no limit. But the garage does apply towards your accessory structure square footage limit. So if it's under 4.6 acres, there is a limit. That's something that I did not say. The ADUs, the square footage of the ADU does not go towards the property's square footage limit. So lot specific, we can talk about it one-on-one.
If your property is splittable, do you have to purchase a second connection for water or only when you split?
It depends on what water district and sewer district you're in and how they want to work with you.
Several months ago, I read that Placer County was considering a finance program through the county for building ADUs. Is that something that is still being considered? I can answer this question. That is something that we're looking at as part of one of our housing element programs. The major problem we're running into are two kind of issues. First, we want to make sure that we are providing a possibility for kind of the construction loan process that we can administer. And then the second question we have to answer is the source of funds. If we are to use like state and federal dollars, there are some income restrictions that would be limited to low income households. So we're still working through that. Cost to install new septic systems. Chris?
Again, like the sewer, you're up in the 10,000 range. It's site specific. It can get astronomical. If it's just tying into an existing, you're probably just adding leach field. You can be quite a bit lower, but general terms, 10,000 is a number to float.
Gotcha. All right, Libya's back. So kind of any tips on a do-it-yourself ADU? Chris?
Know your limits. A DIY, I've come behind some DIYs that did not really know much and they were very adventurous. And I've seen some people that called it DIY and did just as good of a job as I could do. It really depends on your ability. If you have never built anything before, build a garden shed first and then think about an ADU. If it's your first build, I wouldn't jump right into that.
That's great. I'd love to jump in as an ADU builder. I'm not a builder. It's called Chris. Chris clearly has a lot of experience with this, and I really appreciate the grounded approach. My first ADU was a converted family room, so it was existing square footage. Luckily, someone who had owned the home prior had actually gotten a bathroom permitted for in a closet, didn't do it. So we had the existing permit. Boy, did that help. So we added a bathroom, really cool door. And it's now this super sweet 1-bedroom attached accessory dwelling unit. It's awesome. My adult kids and I, we renovated some farmhouses in Sebastopol and worked with the town of Sebastopol. And we have 1 designated ADU and 1 primary residence. And the process was not as scary. And we used existing square footage within these farmhouses to do this ADU. So I highly recommend really talking to Megan, who's super knowledgeable. Chris is super knowledgeable. You have some really great resources here where Placer wants to encourage it. So whatever type you're looking at, there's a good array.
Fantastic. Oh, what are the cost savings for using the pre-approved ADU plans?
So the pre-approved plans are going to save you on the design cost. So having someone draw plans for you, it's about $10,000 right now to have someone draw plans for you. And then in addition to that, because they're all under 750 square feet, you're going to save on the impact fees, which is about $20,000. So you're saving approximately $30,000, and you're also going to save a lot of time. So we estimate that to get the pre-approved plans submitted and get a building permit issued, it's about 3 weeks. When ADU permits, full ADU permits going through full review are about 60 days. That's where we're at right now.
Add something to that.
Yes.
I've looked through the plans, and the architect or engineer was aware of the need, and so a lot of the design is easier to build, which converts into easier on your pocketbook. So if you were to design something yourself or hire someone else, they may not meet that criteria, but the county plan approved plans are very well made.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. We have time for a couple more questions. So I'm going to say with plans for Roseville, reach out to Roseville directly. You can reach out to myself, and I can put you in touch with the Roseville housing person. What is the loan process if you're looking to get financed? You're buying the land and then you're constructing. What are those requirements like?
We just rolled out a lot loan program. So for 10 acres or less, we will finance up to 70%. So that's 30% down for just the lot loan, or depending on the process and what's available for buying it, we can do a package where you may get into escrow or buy an option to purchase a piece of property, put those plans together to buy the home, and we close escrow for the entire package all at once. And we finance both the lot and the construction. We call it the package all at once. And down payments, depending on, again, income levels and so forth, there are Fannie Mae construction loan programs for even less than 10% down, 5% down. And for the larger ones, I saw a question about $1 million plus. At $1 million, we're looking at 20% down. And when we get farther north of that, that's borrower specific and plan specific. 20 to 25% is a good expectation in those higher numbers.
So 2 more quick questions, and then unfortunately we will have to wrap it up. Does solar have to be on the house, or can it be placed somewhere else to better capture the sun?
It can be a ground mount as well. It does not necessarily have to be on the house.
It could even be on the primary dwelling. It could be on a garage. Yeah, just get creative, and you're going to want to talk to a solar company, just like contractors. Talk to a few of them.
Correct.
And then finally, are the free plans handicap accessible?
So this round of plans that we have do not have the ADA larger doorways. The next round that we're getting, which we hope to get shortly, are going to have those.
They can be modified. You lose the prior approval, but they can be modified to be ADU. I actually worked with a customer that did that and got it approved, but you lose that pre-approval part.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very, very much. We're very, very happy and excited to have Chris and Laura, who were able to spend some time to sit down and share their expertise with all of us. And thank you, Megan and Patrick, for taking time out of your Saturday to walk us through the county process. You can always find out more by reaching out to any of us or by going to placer.ca.gov/housing, which is our county's housing website. There we have all of our programs, links to the ADU website, and everything else. I'd like to thank everyone and our panelists for coming out, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.